Hi everybody, Matt Lawton here, and this is the Astrological Wings channel, and I'm going to take a look at the astrological weather report for the week of December 5th through the 11th, and it features a full moon and a very volatile type full moon since it's tightly conjunct Mars. So first thing, I just want to remind everybody, if you are not familiar with astrology, don't get caught up on the astrological terms that I'm going to say, and just kind of listen to what the rest of what I'm saying is, the interpretations, which is 80 to 90% of what I'm saying anyway. So, don't get yourself lost or confused on the astrological terms. I mention them for the people who do know some astrology and are interested in the why part, not just what is going on, but the why part. So just you got reminded through that friendly reminder. Remember, this is a free service. It's on YouTube. So, if you have an account, sign up and become a follower and turn on your notifications. And please, 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 when we're done today, turn somebody else on to the blog, pass the link on. Thanks so much. So let's get into this week. So like I said, the full moon is the big thing of the week, but we have Mercury and Venus, Mercury a little bit ahead of Venus at this point. They've been traveling together for a few weeks now, and I've talked about that a lot. And so Mercury and Venus are both going to go into Capricorn this week, and they're both going to square Jupiter right before they do that. Jupiter getting closer and closer to going back into Aries, so it's getting very close to the end of the Pisces journey that it will have. And it's at that critical degree of Pisces where there's a lot of plans that we're making now are going to make a big impact. That's Jupiter, thinking about the future, thinking about our plans and stuff like that. So that all is leads right into today, Monday, when Mercury squares Jupiter right before it goes into Capricorn. So when they get together, this is a very broad vision that we have, a very wide encompassing vision. It shows us the big picture very well, and we are very tolerant of other people, other ideas coming into our sphere, and we take them and adapt our own plans and visions and philosophies and values to what we're learning. So any kind of new knowledge right now we're gaining. Now, the big problem with Mercury square Jupiter is sometimes our plans are so big that we can get into such a positive kind of attitude that we can take it to a point of arrogance, and so that's and the other issue with it is that we don't take care of all the details we need to take care of, but we do get a lot of help here in order to not do that. And what's really interesting, first of all, Mercury is really good at taking care of those details, so it's just a matter of your attitude really dealing with that, because the ability is there. And in fact, Mercury gives us such a flexibility. Mercury is a very flexible planet, and will go from one thing to another very easily, and therefore gives us the ability to correct things that we see aren't working properly, that that maybe could be working better. So it can give us new solutions to old problems, and it also can give us, like I said, a really wide vision in what's going on now for the future. And Mercury can take care of those details, especially with it going into Capricorn really soon. So really good energy to use. The thing we just don't want to do is get so almost cocky that we get arrogant about what our plan is and stuff, and get kind of pushy, and that can get people turned off to our self-righteousness. So then the Mercury will go into Capricorn the very next day on Tuesday, tomorrow, and it will spend a long time in Capricorn. Normally, Mercury, goes through a sign in about 3 weeks, let's say, on average. Well, Mercury is going to be in Capricorn for about 12, 13 weeks. It is not going to go into Aquarius until February 12th of next year, because on the 29th, it's going to go retrograde in Capricorn at the 25th degree, slide all the way back, I think, to about 8 degrees, And so by the time it turns around in mid-January, it's going to take all the way until mid-February to get out of Capricorn. So what does that mean? And what it means is we've got like 2.5 months almost of really serious decision making and thinking to do about what we want to do and the approach that we want to have. Mercury in Capricorn is a really serious mind. It doesn't do anything impulsively. It wants to make sure it checks on all the things that it's learned about in the past, the experiences it's had, the information it's had, basically the wisdom that it's built up. So this Mercury in Capricorn is a very serious intellect, and it has a lot of respect for people who are older or wiser or more experienced than us. We may, open up a lot of lines of communication with people like that. And yet, oddly enough, too, that despite having this very serious mind, the Mercury in Capricorn, it does have a really good sense of humor. It sees the cynicism really well, and it's embedded within everyday existence, and can have a good, almost like a sarcastic sense of humor about it. But that being said, it really is into practical things. That's what Mercury in Capricorn wants, to use the mind to focus on practical things, real world things, like using the mind to do those to do those things that we know are going to get us some kind of results in the real world. And so it will be collecting information, studying things, but it's going to be studying things that are really practical for real world things that we need to know and deal with right now. So it's a very present kind of Mercury on that level, but it relies a lot on the past and experience and wisdom to make the right decisions in the present. So that's why it can be, we slow down our decision making, and it can be a quieter Mercury too. Mercuries are communicating, and people keep, they don't express their emotions as much. What they want to talk about is just kind of down to business, practical things when Mercury's in Cap. So that's gonna, and when it goes retrograde, those 3 weeks is go retrograde, people are gonna be really quiet, really kind of inside. But it's really, I think, calling us to then you look at the way the world is going right now, and at our approaches for the next 2.5 months, and through that Mercury retrograde period, of how we're dealing with the real world and the things we need in the real world, and the practical things we have, and maybe rethinking and correcting and fine-tuning and getting some more information and wisdom as to how to do that would be a really good way to spend this Mercury in Capricorn period. Okay, so Wednesday's the big event. It's the full moon in Gemini, and it's exactly conjunct Mars. So it is a very, very intense full moon, which means that it's opposite the sun in Sagittarius. And that's where, the initial stressful energy comes from, and remember, people really act out stress and stuff in the full moon because the light of the moon is really shining on where they're at and how they are. And so when the moon's in Gemini, what does it want? The moon in Gemini wants a lot of flow of information. It wants a lot of mental stimulation. It's a very curious mind. It's going from one thing to another, collecting information, and that's what's making that moon feel secure. Getting information, and then we take that information and we like to talk about it. We like to bounce it off of other people. We like to process it by communicating. And a lot of times it has nothing to do actually with finding, a final answer. It's actually enjoying collecting the information. And that's where the stress comes in from the Sagittarius sun. It's listen, you're collecting all this information, and yeah, it's all fine and dandy, but what are you going to do with it? You're kind of go from one thing to another. It's superficial a little bit, are you going to take this and grow with it? Are you going to personally expand, or are you just going to get lost in the intellectual puzzles and fun of like mental stimulation, and just going from one thing to another? So that Sag moon is like saying, take this, the Sag sun is like, take this information. What are we going to do with it? And it's interesting too, the Sag sun is in a quincunx to Uranus, while Mercury, who is the ruler of this full moon in Gemini, is also going into is sesquiquadrate Uranus too. So we got a little Uranus energy on the Sagittarius sun side that's showing like a restlessness or an impatience with all this information if it's not useful to us, if it's not taking us somewhere where we can grow more with it, where we can expand our knowledge with it, where we can adopt some new things into our value system from it, maybe learn some things about it. So it's very interesting. And then, we'll go back a little bit too to what else is going on here. We have this conjunction with Mars, right? And it's also trining Saturn, the full moon, but the conjunction to Mars is super tight. These guys are within like 6 minutes of degree with one another, so they're really super tight. And so we need to like realize that Mars energy is going to be influencing that Mercury, the moon in Gemini. And remember, like I said about Mars is very headstrong. Gemini is a very heady sign. So now the moon is in there too. So our emotions are tied in to our ideas right now. And they're very subjective. And therefore, when they're very subjective, we're very defensive about them. Our ego is wrapped up emotionally with a thought. And so there's a trigger. That's a trigger. When that happens, it's our brain is just boom, just triggering when things like that happen. So what happens with Mars conjuncting moon is we can be easily angered or irritated with other people who are not agreeing with us, not agreeing with the ideas that we have with that moon in Gemini. So it's like it can be a very defensive Mars on that level. And like I said, in the meantime, that sun and the Uranus energy attached to the sun and Mercury are like, which is the ruler of the full moon, are all like, hey, what are you going to do with this stuff? Are you going to, take it now? What's even more intense about all this is the sun opposite moon Mars they're all in a T square with Neptune. And that's going to be an applying aspect too for the moon. That brings in a lot of confusion. It brings in a lot of stress. It's a mutable T-square, so it shows there's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of moving parts right now. It's hard to keep up with everything going on, And Mars is trying to, with the moon is trying to, is acting triggered, like I said, and then trying to do what it wants to do, what it normally does. It's like, push energy. Even the Sag sun, same thing. Push energy. Full moon, push energy. But what does Neptune do? It's going to dissolute all that energy somehow or another. It dissolutes it. And so like what happens is you get a Mars that all of a sudden is like, especially with Mars retrograde, is like, this stuff isn't working. What I normally do isn't working right. So that can be very disenchanting, can be disheartening. And then that moon Neptune and sun Neptune square can kick in. And all of a sudden we're feeling like a victim. We're running for our addictions. We're running for our escapism, our fantasy world, to try to soften the blow of realizing that our actions are not working the way they normally do. And that has a lot to do with the Mars retrograde, but also a lot to do with the Neptune. And we have to sit through that. It's not easy. And that can be the type of thing that can get the Mars even more angry, but it's not even really quite sure what it's angry about. It's just like, it's just a strong. And so we have to be careful. We're susceptible. It can bring our immune systems even down when we're feeling like that and allowing disease, illness, allergies, sensitivities to environments, things like that, that can like really, darken and bring a shadow in. So it's very intense energy, because there's a lot of intensity in that full moon on that Gemini Sagittarius axis, but the Neptune and the Mars retrograde are really pulling it backwards. So where can we get help is the trine that Mars and the moon are making to Saturn. This can help us kind of bring some discipline in, not allow the Neptune or the Mars to go too overboard. Saturn can help us take a more realistic approach to things, get more grounded in what's going on and what it's saying to do. What is it saying to do? It's saying use that energy that you're feeling irritated or angry or lost or confused about to just take steps, step by step. You're not going to get a lot of results right now with Mars retrograde, but there is the ability to build a stability. And then you have Mercury, the ruler of this full moon, going into Capricorn. And what did I just say about Mercury and Capricorn for the next 12 weeks? Very, very much slowing down decision making, like making sure we have all the information, making sure the information is correct, making sure. So it's discipline. You see what's going on here is the Capricorn energy of the Mercury, the ruler there, and the energy of Saturn, which is similar to Capricorn, which is why it's one of the signs that Saturn rules, is saying you have to apply some discipline, slow down. If you don't, you're going to try to do some impulsive acts. They're probably not going to work out, and you're going to get disenchanted with things. But but this can satisfy the restlessness of the Sagittarius sun too, and the Uranus energy by saying, yeah, we've got a plan. That's what Sag wants. That's what Uranus wants. We're gonna plan, and this is what we're gonna do. And it's gonna take some time. Mars is still retrograde. We're only about halfway through its retrograde period. And Mercury is gonna go retrograde while it's retrograde. Mars is retrograde near the end. So we may not even be in the slowest part of seeing our progress really not going to the places we want it to go to right now. It's the state of the world. It's where we're all in. But this is a time where we can really, where we can use this Capricorn energy and have it help us use this Saturnian energy by applying some discipline. And the other thing is too, it can also help us be wise about the way we're using our resources and money and stuff. In a time when, we might need to be more frugal and thrifty, that is exactly what Capricorn is really good at. It has learned how to do that in the past, from times in the past, and it's had to do that, and it can do it again now. So, yeah, so very, very interesting energy there. We want to, make sure that, that we're trying to take some of that energy that might be disheartening and frustrating and angering and irritating at times, and just use that as our motivation to drive and take step by step and not overlook, the things that we have to do. Okay, so the last thing going on is Venus following Saturn next weekend. On the weekend, Venus is going to square Jupiter on Friday night, so have a party. I highly recommend having a party or going out somewhere on Friday night and having some fun. I mean, Venus square Jupiter is just having fun. It's like being able to let go and have some fun with your friends, have some good social times, enjoy life. It's not a very active energy, but we can get a lot of benefits and good feelings through our personal relationships. Now, we can overspend money for sure, especially on things we don't necessarily need, but sometimes that's required in this world to have some fun, so there's that. But it is a really for a square, it's one of the most beneficial squares because it just makes you want to go out and socialize and do something, but yet at the same time really enjoy life. And then the next day, Venus goes into Capricorn also, just like Mercury. And this is when we're really seeking stability in our relationships, where we really are like serious. We adopt a serious attitude about relating to others. So it really does, it favors business relationships quite a bit, because we're able to discipline our emotions and not allow our emotions to get into, too much into our decision-making processes in relation to other people, so and once again, what is it doing again? It's that Capricorn energy. It wants to connect with people who are older, wiser, or have more experience than us, and actually kind of want to hang out with them and absorb some of their wisdom, so it's like, so it's going to be like, 3 weeks or so of Venus in Cap, and once again, this is going to really, Venus in Cap is really good too, with like knowing what resources it has, how to use them properly, like once again in a thrifty way, and actually can be smart about investing in it for the future too. Like, it may not have an exact payoff right now, but it can be wise about things like that too. So yeah, so a lot of Capricorn energy starting to come in, and of course the sun will go and follow Mercury and Venus and Capricorn in a couple more weeks. But yeah, you want to go look and see where that full moon, which 2 houses it falls into in your chart, and then you'll have an idea of, what axis in your chart is going to be triggered by that full moon. So, if it falls in the 3rd and 9th houses, then it's going to have a lot to do with communications. It's going to have a lot to do with maybe your movements and your travel, or the information you're collecting, the education, your business, things like that. You just can hone in on your where that full moon is hitting you. So, all right, that's what I got for this week for you guys. Definitely, it's an intense one, and don't allow, your emotions to get out of control, and try not to fall too hard back into feeling like, into that victimhood and needing to escape thing, but try to use that energy instead to take the steps, practical 1-by-1 steps, to keep moving forward to where you want to go. All right, this is Matt Lawton. This is the Astrological Winds channel. This is a free service that I offer every week. Right now it's on YouTube channels. And so if you have a YouTube account, become a follower, please. Turn on your notifications, and then you'll know when I post it. It's usually every Monday. And then, like I said, it's a free service. So I'd really, really appreciate it if you could pass it on to somebody else. It's really been the best way for it to grow. I've been finding a lot of secondary people who have gotten it through someone else I directly knew at one point, who have really gotten into the blog, and is really, bumping up the amount of followers, both on YouTube and the podcast. So, and that's it too. It's available on podcasts. No reason to just see my face. Right now, all I do is talk to the camera. A lot of times it's much easier listening to a podcast. You can do it while you're jogging or driving around, or even at the grocery market on your headphones. There's a lot of different ways that, you don't have to be stuck with your eyes looking at a camera. I really don't show much right now. That may change one day, but it's available on all kinds of podcasts, is my point. Okay. Buzzsprout puts it out. There's about 20 podcasts that pick it up. So all you got to do is go to your favorite podcast and look up Astrological Winds channel, and you'll find it there, okay? And if you don't find it there, just check another one out. I know it's on Spotify. I know it's on Apple iPodcasts. I know it's on Reveal. So, just check it out. And then also, if you have an Instagram account, and I know a lot of you guys must have Instagram accounts, I do post the link there on Instagram under Astrological Winds channel. Just become a follower. And also, you're missing out on stuff I put up during the week too. And it's not more video or audio. It's usually just a few sentences on certain days where I'm just like, hey, the moon is kind of like doing a little extra pizzazz today or something, So you're missing out on just a little bit more of a bite sometimes. And, I noticed I have a lot more followers on YouTube and the podcast and on Instagram, which is kind of odd. So like, if you have an Instagram account, go, when we're done here, just go, follow Astrological Winds channel and pass it on. And also the one other place I do post the link is on my private Facebook account. You're welcome to become a friend, understanding that that's what I mainly use it for. I don't really use it to socialize much, but you do have to friend me. It's Matthew with 2 T's. And then Lawton, Lauten. And also, some people have given me donations in the past for the blog, which I really appreciate. No donation is too small. So if you'd like to do that, my Venmo is, the sign @ and then Matthew, Matthew, capital M, and then a hyphen or dash in the middle, Lawton, Lauten, capital L. And I'm on Cash App too, $ Matthew Lawton too. So, and then really the best way you guys can help me out too is I'm a professional astrologer. I've been one for 20 years. I do charts regularly. If, I get your natal chart done, or, I highly recommend everyone doing that so that you know the energy that you have in your life and where you're bringing that, which you always will have with you, and to help find that perfect balance somewhere in your chart. And then also every year around your birthday, I recommend getting a predictive reading. It's very similar to what I do right now every week, except it's for you for a year. I also do relationship readings. So if you're in a new relationship, you want to try to figure out what brought you together, or even long-term relationships where you want to look at that relationship chart and how the relationship is functioning together. That's available. Children's charts, if you have a youngster and you're interested in knowing, what's the best way to deal with the youngster's, ways of being, his personality and stuff, his or her personality, and, looking at the first 20 years of their life and major events that go on in it. Elections, highly recommend that if you have any important thing that you're doing to try to, get a good day and time where things are in your favor for success. And then also horary, if you have a burning emotional question you just can't seem to get an answer to or make a decision about, sometimes we can find an answer through a chart, through a horary chart. Also relocation, astrocartography, a lot of people interested in that. If you're looking to move somewhere else, if you're looking to be under the power of a certain planet and the energy it has, what parts of the world would you want to go to? I do all those kind of readings. I also do beginners classes. They're available on Dropbox, $25 a class. There's 5 of them up. If you want to buy all 5 at the same time, it'd be $100 even. If you're a student, they're $20 a class. And, anyone is serious about them, I will keep them going too. Also available for lectures, question and answer sessions, mini readings, or astrology entertainment for your event. All you have to do for any of these things is email me first, make initial contact, and that's at mattHue823@gmail.com. One more time, mattHue823@gmail.com. All right, folks, please pass it on, and, let's try to continue to get through, this rough, I know it's rough, Mars retrograde is always rough, but just try to continue to get through this, use this energy of this full moon to just motivate us to take the steps to keep moving forward, even if we're not getting the exact results we want yet. All right, and I'll see you all next week.